Hi everyone. The year 2025 began with a disaster that shook the United States. On January 5th, a massive wildfire struck the city of Los Angeles, quickly spreading throughout the area. The raging fire burned thousands of hectares of land, destroying tens of thousands of homes and creating a terrifying sight across the city. Thick black smoke covered the sky, as if the world was in the grip of an unstoppable darkness. Unexpectedly, just a month after the massive fire, the city of Detroit was struck by another disaster. A massive flood that hit the entire city on February 23, 2025. Torrential rains poured down without stopping, creating uncontrollable water flows. Rivers overflowed, flooding homes, streets, and even large buildings in the downtown area. What was even more shocking was what happened next. Suddenly, extremely cold temperatures arrived rapidly. In no time, the floodwaters that had inundated Detroit turned to ice, creating an extraordinary sight that seemed beyond comprehension. The flooded streets turned into solid ice rivers, halting all activities instantly. Cars that had previously been swept away by the water were now trapped in thick layers of ice. Yet, amid the horrors of the flood and freezing weather, there was one place that remained untouched, as if immune to the immense power of nature. A mosque in downtown Detroit, which had long been a place of worship for Muslims, stood peacefully. While everything around it was submerged in frozen water, the mosque remained dry and intact, with no water anywhere near it. This miracle not only drew attention but also made the hearts of many people tremble. Witnesses who saw this event began to feel that what they were witnessing was not just a coincidence. Many began to wonder, is this a sign? Some believed that this was a proof of God's power, that nothing is impossible in His presence. With this event, the flood-stricken and extreme weather-hit city of Detroit suddenly became the center of attention worldwide. Thousands of people started to visit the mosque, wanting to see it with their own eyes and learn more. Was it true that this mosque was protected from disaster? What was really behind this miracle? News of this extraordinary event quickly spread across the country. However, this event was just the beginning. What would happen next? And how would this event change the lives of thousands of people in the United States? Everything remained very mysterious and full of puzzles. This miracle, along with the rapidly spreading news, caused mixed feelings of wonder and curiosity. Eyewitnesses began to share their experiences of seeing the mosque that was untouched by the frozen water, and the word spread further. Many believed that this was not a coincidence, but a sign from God. Some began to feel peace after witnessing the event, as if they had found comfort amidst the terrifying situation. Meanwhile, the mosque's administrators, who had been witnessing the event with gratitude from the beginning, began to explain to visitors the meaning behind this event. They invited everyone to reflect together on God's power and to show that, although the world is full of disasters and uncertainty, there is always hope and protection for those who believe. However, while many were deeply moved by this extraordinary event, only a few realized that what happened in Detroit was not just a natural miracle. It was the beginning of an unexpected spiritual journey for thousands of people, one that would change their views on religion, life, and the limitless power of God. After the extraordinary event in Detroit, where the mosque located in downtown remained intact and protected from the freezing floodwaters, many city residents felt drawn to learn more. This miracle sparked an overwhelming sense of curiosity and wonder among those who had previously not known much about Islam. Many felt that this event was not just a coincidence, but a spiritual message inviting them to reflect deeper on life and the power of God. Since that day, the mosque in Detroit became the center of attention. Eyewitnesses who had seen the event began arriving to witness it with their own eyes. They stood in front of the mosque, admiring how the building remained strong and unaffected by the frozen waters that surrounded it. Some of them felt that the mosque had an extraordinary power, a protection that could only be given by the Almighty God. Not only residents of Detroit, but news of this event quickly spread across the country. People from other cities began flocking to see for themselves the mosque that had never been touched by the flood. They started asking how the mosque had remained intact, and if there was a deeper explanation that could reveal the meaning of such a remarkable event. Inside the mosque, the imams and mosque administrators patiently began explaining the teachings of Islam to the visitors. They spoke about the importance of faith, the power of prayer, and how every event in this world is part of God's great destiny. They invited everyone to open their hearts and minds to understand the deeper meaning behind this extraordinary event. This is not just about a building that remains standing, but about how we can feel the power of God in every event that happens, said Imam Ahmad, a mosque leader who had long dedicated himself to the Muslim community in Detroit. This mosque is a symbol of protection and hope. God protected this place, and perhaps also wants to remind us all to always trust in His power, no matter what happens. Some visitors began to feel moved, and many of them started to experience a sense of tranquility and peace after visiting the mosque. A feeling that was previously hard to explain, but now seemed to be clearly present in their hearts. For some, it was a spiritual feeling they had never experienced before. They felt that their lives were starting to have new meaning, and the miracle they witnessed opened the way for a deeper spiritual quest. More and more people came to the mosque to learn more about Islam, not just to see the miracle itself, but to seek answers to the questions that arose within them. They wanted to know more about the religion, its teachings, and what made Muslims so steadfast in their faith. Many were fascinated by the values of Islam, which taught about peace, brotherhood, and sincere trust in God. In the midst of this extraordinary event, many people began to open their hearts to Islam. They began reading the Quran, discussing with Muslims, and even attending study sessions held at the mosque. Some felt that this was the right path for them, a spiritual calling that could not be ignored. However, despite the growing interest in embracing Islam, some still felt doubtful and fearful. Many questioned whether they could truly change their lives, whether they were ready to follow a faith that was new to them. But for many, this journey was the first step toward a deeper understanding of life and their true purpose. The miracle that took place in Detroit had brought a significant change in the lives of many people. The freezing floodwaters not only changed the face of the city, but also opened the eyes of thousands to see the world from a different perspective. This was a spiritual journey that had just begun, and for many, it was a moment they would never forget for the rest of their lives. As time went on, the extraordinary event in Detroit continued to influence the lives of the city's residents. What began as curiosity and amazement over the miracle at the mosque had now transformed into a spiritual journey that changed many lives. After witnessing firsthand how the mosque was spared from the devastating natural disaster, many people began to feel that there was a deeper message from God that needed to be understood. In the midst of the hardships caused by the freezing flood, a sense of hope emerged in the hearts of many. Most of Detroit's residents, who had initially felt fear and despair, began seeking peace, and the mosque became their refuge. There, they found not only physical protection but also the inner peace they so desperately needed. As the days passed, the mosque continued to be the center of attention, not only for Muslims but also for those who wanted to understand Islam more deeply. Visitors began arriving in greater numbers. They wanted to learn about the teachings of Islam, how Muslims view life, and how they could experience the same peace that they had witnessed at the mosque. Gradually, thousands of people who had originally come out of curiosity began to feel a calling in their hearts to embrace Islam. They felt that the extraordinary event that occurred in their city was not a mere coincidence, but a sign that the right path might be right in front of them. Those who had come seeking answers about the religion finally found the peace they had been searching for in their lives, which had been filled with worry and unrest. Inside the mosque, the imams and administrators patiently addressed every question and doubt posed by the visitors. They explained that Islam is not just about worship, but also about the relationship with God, with others, and with oneself. Visitors were inspired by the sincerity and peace that Muslims experience in their daily lives. Many decided to embrace Islam. This process did not happen overnight, but with each step, they moved closer to a deeper understanding of the religion. They felt that what they were experiencing in their hearts was a call from God to live a life with greater meaning and full of peace. Several community leaders and religious figures in Detroit supported those who chose to convert to Islam. They shared the message that this was a very personal spiritual journey, full of hope. They invited people of other faiths to support those in search of the meaning of life, not with judgment, but by providing space for each individual to find peace in the faith they chose. As more and more people embraced Islam, the city of Detroit began to change. Once known for its diversity, the city now witnessed a growing spiritual bond among its residents. A sense of unity developed, not only among Muslims but also with people of other faiths. People from various backgrounds and religions engaged in discussions, understood each other, and supported one another in their quest for peace. The frozen flood, which initially brought destruction, eventually became a symbol of greater change. The disaster reminded Detroit's residents that in every trial, there is hidden wisdom, and in every difficulty, there is a path to peace and hope. The miracle at the mosque had opened the eyes of many to see the world differently. And in the end, thousands of people who were once distant from Islam found a new path in life. Detroit, which had once been shaken by disaster, now stood witness to a great transformation in the spiritual lives of thousands of people. It all began with one extraordinary event, a mosque untouched by the frozen waters. But more than that, this event opened the way for people to seek truth, peace, and ultimately, embrace Islam. In this way, Detroit rose not only from a physical disaster but from a spiritual one, moving toward a life filled with hope and faith.